Okay, let's check out the driver swing and the things that you need to be doing differently. When we look at it in 3D in a minute with Rory's swing, when we go back inside, you're not going to see a lot of difference in the actual swing mechanics. The only main difference is in the setup, and there's 4 things that we need to look at. First one is the width of your stance. So we're looking to get the insides of your feet about shoulder width apart. Second one is then you're standing taller because the club shaft is much longer. So that's going to get you in a bit more of an upright position. Third one is ball position. So you're going to play that ball further forward, just opposite your left heel. Then the fourth one, this is the interesting one, is the spine is pretty vertical when you're setting up. Whereas, you know, we've been led to believe that you need to tilt back when you're setting up with the driver, but when you look at it in a minute, when I go through it on 3D, that's just not the case. So it's really important when you set up, feel as though you stand tall, get that wide stance, ball position forward, and then you're pretty much ready to go with the driver. In terms of the swing, just go back through steps 1 to 5 that I've gone through and look what's going on. Look what's going on with the pelvis and how that moves and how you create width on the way back. Look at the transition in the downswing, because that's the key part where most of you go wrong. And just go through those videos and then try and implement those swing mechanics into the driver, just making those 4 changes. That's the key. You know, I've seen so many people, you look at them on the range like this because they're trying to hit up on the ball. You don't need to do that. You'll hit up on the ball because you've moved it further forward towards your left foot. That's the only difference in it you need to make. So that will naturally cause the club, it's going to sort of bottom out somewhere around the middle of your feet, but then if you got the ball off your left heel, you're going to catch it more on the upswing. The other thing that's going to help you hit it on the way up anyway is when you transition properly, when you've got your hips forward and you're pulling the golf club down and your hips keep pushing forwards, that pushing forward of your hips causes your spine to back up a little bit. So I did a video on the slingshot, and that's what it is. So as you're coming down, your spine's going from its vertical position and you've got your pelvis forward, and then at some point your spine backs up, so all the force and energy from the club swinging through and your hips pushing forward is then causing your spine to back up a little bit. So again, that's going to create the upward hit. So it's just the changes in the setup, getting the mechanics right, that are going to help you hit that driver really, really solid. You know, there's not several different swings you need to play golf. There really isn't. Think of your body as the engine that's going to move the golf club. So if we can fine-tune your engine, you know, if we can get it running as efficiently as possible, all that means is you've got to make small adjustments with your setup, ball position, you know, the length of the club dictates if you're bent over more or standing taller. So it's just small changes. So don't think you've got to do or learn lots of different swings. You want to sort of try and get one swing and then just make those small adjustments. That's the easiest way of doing it. And the steps videos are just explaining that. You can see it there with Rory's swing, and you know, when I show you the driver swing, Rory's driver swing next to the iron swing in 3D, you're going to see very small changes, you know, and those changes is from the setup. They're not him actually trying to do anything different in the shot really. So hopefully that's cleared up a few things for you with the driver. Okay, let's go through it then. So we've got the wide stance, that's giving me stability and balance when I'm swinging. Standing tall, club shaft is longer, so that's naturally going to put you up in a bit more of a taller position. I feel as though my spine is straight, and then I've got my ball position towards my left foot, and then I'm ready to go. So like I say, it's the same swing mechanics that we talked about in steps 1 to 5, so go and check those out first. But how is this going to help? Okay, it's really going to help you smooth out the swing. So what you see with the best players in the world is their tempo is perfect, their rhythm, timing, everything looks really smooth. Whereas if you look at a lot of amateur golfers, you know, like your friends and that play, you can see everything's a bit more jerky because they're trying to force the club through. So the shaft helps you identify that, helps you really sort of identify if your swing tempo's out, if your rhythm's out, and it sort of helps you instinctively feel how to correct that, because if you don't, it's going to feel pretty awful. You know, you're going to feel off balance, you're going to feel a lot of vibration through the shaft, you're certainly not going to hit it straight. So I've got a few drills that are really going to help out that you should do with the GForce Driver, but also you can do that with the GForce 7-iron and the wedge as well. So the first thing we're going to look at is the human pendulum, because that's what we've got to try and create to give you that beautiful tempo and rhythm in your golf swing. So all we do is we set up in position, going through the 4 points I just talked about, and then from there we focus on just turning the hips back and through. So you can see how my arms and club are swinging back nice and freely as they go back and through. And what you want to be able to do is you want to do that continuously without stopping. So you can see I'm nice and balanced when I do that. If you feel like you're losing your balance at any point, or feels a little bit jerky, you just need to correct yourself, because that is the most important part you want to get right. Definitely recommend one of these. It's more of a weighted, flexible swing trainer, but it does that job really good as well. A little bit of added weight, and you can feel that human pendulum motion that I'm talking about. Body rotating back and through, and then the arms and club swinging freely like a pendulum. We don't want to feel like we're overusing the arms, trying to force the club through. So that's the important thing you've got to get right first, the human pendulum. Once you've got that pendulum, you've then got to work on your tempo. Your swing tempo should be 3 to 1. So that means your backswing takes 3 times longer than the downswing. And everybody's different. Some people swing fast at 3 to 1, some people slow, some people in between. So you just got to figure it out. Best thing to do is just buy a swing tempo app. You know, go online, you can pick one up. Tour Tempo do a good one. You know, they've done a lot of research into the swing tempo, so I'd recommend picking up their app, because it's going to help you get that tempo, not just for your woods and irons, but also they do it for the short game as well. Your short game tempo, chip in, putt in, is 2 to 1. So they've got some good apps out there that are going to help you really get that right. So once you've got your human pendulum, you're just swinging back and through nice and freely. You then want to accelerate through more and listen for that swish. Just try and keep your balance when you do it. If you're losing balance, go right back to the start again, and try out different swing tempos. You know, try a slower one. I tend to count in my head 1, 2, 3, 1, and then try a quicker one. You're also looking for smooth changes in direction. So as I swing this club into the backswing and then get to the top and transition, we want it smooth. So it's smooth into the backswing, smooth into the transition. So we don't want aggressive movements, you know, the takeaway. Too aggressive with the hands and arms, you're not going to get your tempo right. So you've really got to just make a smooth change in the takeaway as you go back, and then smooth as you're coming through. And that's what this shaft really highlights, because if you're making aggressive changes, you're going to feel it bending all over the place, and you're not going to be able to hit it. So it really helps you with that. You can feel that nice smooth action once you've got that pendulum working back and through, and then you're building it up, and then building your speed up. You can feel those smooth changes, and that's what you've got to get into your golf swing. So once you've got your setup and you feel like you're making smooth changes in direction, you feel like you've got your nice 3 to 1 tempo, and you can stand there continuously swinging back and through, half swings, 3/4, full swings, speeding it up on the way through without any loss of balance or uncomfortable feeling, then you know you're ready to hit shots. And that applies the same to the 7-iron, the GForce 7-iron, the GForce wedge. You know, trying to get that pendulum motion, trying to get that 3 to 1 tempo, trying to make smooth changes in direction. and then you can take that to the ball. Once you start hitting shots, so if you are struggling to hit it straight, you know, with or without the swing trainer, it doesn't really matter. All this advice is for everybody, right? But if you're still struggling to hit it straight with the GForce Driver, because it'll let you know by the ball flight, just work on the stoppers, the Tommy Fleetwood stoppers, you know, and they're going to be sort of stopping about here, about 3/4 of the way through. And then what you'll see then is you'll get a much better release on the ball, because by hitting the stoppers it's forcing your arms to slow down, because the biggest fault for a lot of you when you're slicing your drivers or just not hitting it well is rather than your arms slowing down, they're speeding up because you're trying to force the club through. So the stoppers really force the arms to slow down and then force the club head, or allow it to release. And that's what gives you that nice release of the hands coming through. See how the hands naturally rotate? It's not a forced rotation, because if I'm gripping pretty good, my mechanics are good, if I come down and focus on, you know, stopping or slowing my arms down, the momentum from the club carries on and then just creates a nice natural release. So it's not manufactured. You never want to do that. So just work on those stopper drills and you'll feel a much better release and a nice straight ball flight as well. Okay, let's check out Rory's driver swing here on the left versus iron swing on the right. Like I just said outside, there's not a lot of difference in the swing mechanics. It's just the subtle changes in your setup that are going to have an effect on the swing mechanics. So this is the important thing though. If you look at the driver here, we can see spine angle is pretty much vertical. It's certainly not tilted back. I know there's a lot of stuff out there saying that you've got to, you know, tilt that spine back to help you hit on the ball, but that isn't true. So try not to overdo that, and if you can, just try and stay nice and upright when you set up to the ball. So that's the first thing that you got to get right. When you look at the difference in his iron setup here, again you can see hardly any difference between those two figures there. So the spine angle is vertical. Main difference we can see is the width of his stance is much wider with his driver, and the ball positions further forward. Having the ball further forward, that's going to put the shoulders at a slight angle, and that's going to encourage you to hit up at the ball anyway. So those are the main differences, and then just one more from down the line. What we can see, because the driver shaft is much longer, he's going to be standing taller to the ball compared to with the iron shaft, which is much shorter. It's going to be bent over the ball more. So this change in spine angle here, which is down to the length of the golf club, has an effect on how you turn on the way back, in terms of how your shoulders turn in relation to the floor. So with a shorter club, your shoulders are always going to turn down to the ground a lot more, as opposed to a longer club where they're going to turn a bit more level with the ground. So he's not trying to do anything different in these two swings. He's just, you know, he's just got a different golf club, which is affecting how he stands to the ball, which affects how he swings the club back in terms of, you know, his shoulders. So you don't have to change too much, and that's what I want to point out to you here today. Alright, let's just go back to the start then. Okay, so what I want to look at is this figure here. We're looking at the driver here on the left, and then this is the iron shot on the right there. What's going on is very similar. Again, if you look at the pelvis sway figure here, it's going to be pretty similar. So he's got a little shift off the ball into that right side. The maximum he goes with the driver is about 1.8. We know with his iron from previous videos it's about 1.6, that shift off. But, you know, just watch the spine angle, this figure here, and you're going to see how that spine angle actually starts to tilt back the other way. So he started at pretty much 90 degrees with his driver and his 7 iron. Now he's going in the opposite direction. So the spine does tilt towards the target a little bit. Now my advice is just try and keep your spine nice and straight, nice and vertical when you swing. That's probably the best advice to give you, really. Just keep it nice and simple. So, you know, that's really important. That's what we can see there happening. In the downswing, in the transition, the hips are starting to push forward, so they're starting to push or move towards the target now. And as I mentioned outside there, as the hips push forward, that has an effect on the spine angle, actually pushing the spine back. So you can see as he's coming through here, the spine angle's backing up quite a lot from the original starting position, which was about 90 degrees. And that creates a slingshot action there for the arms and club as they come through. And you can see that the spine's backing up even more as the arms and club extend through like a slingshot. And the same happens with the iron. You can see that there, that slingshot action as he's going through. But it's really important, the transition. You know, I've talked a lot about the pelvis, the centre of the pelvis, and making sure that before you transition into the downswing, your pelvis is actually shifted slightly further forward of where it started. So, you know, coming into the downswing with the driver here, it's already 0.3 of an inch further forward from the starting point. And we can see that the same there with the iron shot as well. And it keeps pushing forward, so just watch the figure as it keeps pushing forwards as he's transitioning and bringing the club down. So it keeps going, and there is a point where it pretty much comes to a standstill, where then his left side will extend up and he'll come into the finish position, as you can see there. But those are the key changes, really. You know, I don't want you to feel like you're having to have several different golf swings to play golf. That isn't the case. You know, if we can set up pretty much with the spine vertical, if you can follow my steps 1 to 5 videos where I go through Rory's swing, where he's hitting the iron, you're pretty much trying to follow that all the way through. And the setup changes, the differences between the iron, the actual length of club, will make the changes for you. You know, you don't have to do a lot. You know, it will sort of set you up in a slightly taller position for the driver, a little bit more bent over for the iron, and then that will naturally swing your shoulders on the correct plane. So your shoulders will turn a little bit flatter to the ground with the driver and a little bit more steeper to the ground with the iron. That's pretty much about it. So work on those points, check out the drills that I've just gone through in the videos outside and see how you got on with that. Thanks for watching.